Well, the minor league cricket season is done, but the fun certainly isn't. Aaman Patel is joining me on campus at UNC to talk about the tournament teams. Aaman, thanks for taking time away from your studies to talk about sports. I know how painful this is for you.
I don't know about a painful name. I'm not sure that's the word I would use. Yeah, I have a lot of fun at UNC, enjoy my classes, but I enjoy talking sports just as equally. So I don't think there's any pain in this process.
Yeah, this was we cricket minor league cricket's over, NFL started. So the fun for you is not stopped at all. I know how much of a football fan you are, but you and I could talk about that forever also. But instead, let's talk about these tournament teams that have just gone out. And we'll start with the tournament team, the team of the tournament, the best team of the tournament. And the league went with choosing 12 players for this. I think that's a good move. There's 26 teams. There's tons of players in the league. It's tough to choose 11 from. I mean, somebody's going to get snubbed. So yeah, the 2022 team of the tournament is Rakeem Cornwall, Unmukt Chand, Shayan Jayasuriya, David White, Lahiru Malantha, Bhaskar Yadram, Calvin Savage, Harmeet Singh, Nosh Kanjigi, Saurabh Netravalkar, Fani Simhadri, and Andreas Haus. So, what are your thoughts here? Do you think they got everything right?
The team looks really good. I mean, to be honest, I'm looking through and I'm like, where's the blemish and who would I sub out? And there's really just not many people that take out. Raheem Cornwall, we talk about it, especially us being in the Atlantic Conference, was probably the most influential player on the Atlantic side, just with what he was able to do with the bat, was able to blast runs and had an abundance of wickets as well. Funny Samadhi, of course, the MVP of the entire league. You knew he was going to be on the team. Saurabh Netravalkar makes his first appearance. Our very own Lahiru Malantha was
Right.
really good, great at the top of the order for the Morso Raptors. So I really don't think there's anyone in this lineup that I would say, yeah, I have to take out. I mean, again, there's always names you can throw around, but I think they did a really good job. Greg Hayes, a name I would just throw out there. Again, I don't think he quite had the quantity that would have been wanted, or maybe the wins for the San
Right.
Diego Surf Riders, but he really was that entire team. But the team to me looks really solid.
Cheyenne Jahangir was excellent for Lone Star. They had a really rough season. They had a couple of rainouts that probably cost him a chance at being in this team, scoring 507 runs, 42 average at 135 strike rate. That's pretty good. Katani Clark, I think. Yeah, I wouldn't have been surprised. I wouldn't have complained at all if he had been in the team with his 532 runs in 14 innings. Finally getting his century. He had 3 half centuries. He scored 99 the first weekend and finally got his century. So he basically essentially scored kind of 2 centuries this season. That's fantastic work from a newcomer in the league. Speaking of newcomers, everybody in this team wasn't in the tournament 11 last year or the tournament 12 last year, except for Unmukt Chand. He's the only return member of this team. That's really odd, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that when you look back at the 2021 team, you'll see a lot of players who just didn't play a lot. Trayvon Griffith, Christopher Barnwell, they're both on that team and just couldn't find roster spots until like the last 2 weeks of the season, which
Strangely.
is
Yeah.
unbelievable. Like you
Yeah.
think you're on the team of the tournament and now you can't find a team. So, I mean, there was a lot of names and still, again, Sujit Gowda didn't have a bad year in the
Right.
slightest. I mean, he's someone that you
Sure.
could throw in as one of the snubs, if you will.
Right.
Shelley Van Skalkovic, I don't think he'll complain about the season he just had. Of course,
No.
capping it off with the championship. Cornet Dry, Hamad Azam, who was the MVP of the league last year. It shows the quality of players in the league that that you can have this much turnover and still have a team look at this good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look at that. Bhaskar Yadram from the East. He stepped up. He was in the U21 team last year. Now he's in the actual team of the tournament. He's one of the 12 best performing players in the league. Calvin Savage playing this season for Chicago Tigers, leading that team to the playoffs. He was phenomenal. Andres House, difficult to make him the 12th here. But I mean, if you make the top 12 in this league right now, there's so many great players that are on the outside looking in. And this is really tough to get in this tournament team. I think the fact that we only had one return player says I think that says how difficult it is to get into this team. You have 26 teams, you have about 500 players in the league, and we're trying to choose a team of the tournament here. This is a really big deal if you can make this team. That's a really big honor. Unmuk being the only guy to return. Shehan Jayasuriya made it this year. He probably pushed it last year. David White had a phenomenal season this year. Congratulations to him. So yeah, this is a really, really solid looking team. I don't really have any complaints about it. And as you said, there were some players from last year's team moving around. There were 6 players from last year's team that
Yeah.
changed teams this year. That is amazing. Imagine that. I don't think we're going to have that happen this time around. I mean, I'm looking at these players on this team on this playing 11. I can't imagine many of these guys moving places next year. Can you?
No, I think they were all pretty much returns back to their side. Calvin Savage, of course, a new guy in the league leading his team. Bhaskar Yadav was the one who had moved around, and Lahito Malanta was a late addition to the Raptors. But I can't imagine these guys leaving a situation where they look good. They were kind of in a leadership role, all of them, whether if they were the captain or not. They always felt
Right.
like one of the guys that the team turned to. So I just couldn't imagine them leaving. But again, you mentioned there's a lot of guys from a lot of different teams from the 2021 best 11, and to
Right.
be honest, you didn't see a lot of those guys. You didn't think any of them would be leaving. The Damian Jacobs of the world, the Christopher Barnwells, Trayvon Griffith. You didn't expect any of them to, be setting up shop elsewhere, and they did. So you really never know.
Yeah, I think part of it is I mean, there's only one player on this playing 11 that whose team didn't make the playoffs, and that's David White's, and they were knocking on the door of the playoffs right up to the
Yeah.
last ball, pretty much of the season, just like they were last year. So, you know, that's one area. You see the Bay Area. There's 3 teams that pretty much share the same venue, same home ground for the most part. It wouldn't be unusual to see players in that situation switch teams because they're so close to each other. But I don't really see it like Nosh going anywhere, for example. Fani Samhadri, I don't think Seattle's in any kind of hurry to get rid of a domestic player that performed as well as he did. That's really key there. When you see a guy like him who's slotting in as a domestic, who's be able to win the the league MVP, he's not going anywhere. You can pretty much bet on it. Now we move on to the domestic team of the tournament. There are 3 guys here who overlap the team of the tournament. That is Saurabh Netravalkar, Nosh Kanjigi, and Fani Samhadri. But 0 players returned from the 2021 domestic team. And that is absolutely amazing. Once again, it just goes to show how difficult it is to make this team. Obviously, it seems to be even harder to make it 2 times.
Again, it's just the depth of the players in the league, and you mentioned it, just no one returning, and whether that was because some are they're on national duty, they don't have as many chances, whatever the case was, it was really crazy to see all the new faces. It's 11 brand new faces, which is again, as you mentioned, just incredible.
Right. We got Shehan Jahangir, which I mentioned before. I mentioned he's on this team. Hanford Hamilton finished the season with 5 straight 50s. That's phenomenal. Dominic Rickey was steady as it can be for New Jersey, helping to lead them all the way to the conference final once again. Aaron Jones captained his team to the league final. He didn't play as many games, but he put up massive numbers when he did. And so you got to take your hat off to that. I think it's a great choice making him the captain of this domestic 11. Pranay Suri, I think absolutely phenomenal choice for domestic 11. I think he's a kind of a no-brainer. Usman Rafiq, what a great year he had, especially the second half of the season. Nosh, we mentioned, reinvented himself with the bat this year. He's been boiling over it. You can see he's been making this transition for a couple of years, and this year the stats really finally lined up. Sachin Mailavarapu, he missed the conference final because he was getting married on that day. And we made a lot of jokes about it. He should have got married at Church Street Park, but he would have, from what I understood, flown in for the league final the next day if it had happened. You didn't have to worry about that because the New Jersey Stallions got beat. But that's 2 New Jersey Stallions on this team. And then you have Saurabh Netravalkar, Fani Samhadri, Pronto Ahmed. He is a great story in the domestic 11. Tremendous job of DC picking him up. He had done well in some other tournaments around the country. He'd done incredibly well. And DC picked them up, and they had one of the best bowling attacks in the league this year, thanks in part to Pronto Ahmed. So then Saideep Ganesh is included in the team as well. He also we'll talk about this in a minute, but he also made the U21 team of the tournament. So hats off to him.
Yeah, I mean, this was a really deep domestic 11. Funny Samadri was, the domestic come up story, and
Right.
from not being cut from basically practice squad and then getting picked up was really unbelievable. You mentioned Nosh. I think his kind of turnaround in the then this season and this edition of minor league cricket, things are going to turn some eyes for the USA selectors when they come around to T20 selection. Aaron Jones was great as always. Hanchard Hamilton had a streak of 5 consecutive 50s before the
Nuts.
last game of the season. And
Nuts.
you're just sitting here, this guy was just lighting the ball up all over the place. And it didn't matter if they were playing on Matting, on Astro, at Church Street Park. He was putting the balls everywhere, and he was really special to watch. And
He
I thought
was.
Pranay Suri, he's kind of an undersung hero on that Silicon Valley striker side. And, undersung because you have all these stars, and John Sanjay, Surya, Saurabh Netravalkar, even Rahul Jariwala's in there. And then you talk about all the firepower with the ball in hand. I think Pranay Suri, one of the guys who kind of flies under the radar, but is really
Agreed.
consistent for them. I really like this domestic 11.
Yeah, I agree with you. Pranay Suri is a phenomenal choice, especially as he slots in as a local, basically, for his team, Silicon Valley Strikers. And he's one of the reasons that they're able to consistently be good. He's one of the reasons they made it to the conference final 2 straight years in a row. That's really hard to do, and they do it because they're good in every draft slot. So, and his draft slot being the local player. So he's incredibly valuable at that slot because he is an elite producer. Fantastic for Nosh Kanjigi and Sorab to make this team, being that they both saw time away from minor league cricket there for a little bit, but both of them, once again, you're going to get great performances out of both of them. Sorab is an elite performer himself. Let's move on now to the U21 team of the tournament. This is what we're most excited about talking
This is
about.
our bread and butter.
This is our bread and butter right here. Saideep Ganesh, as I mentioned, he was also in the domestic team. Danish Patel had a great season, had one or two very, very phenomenal innings. I actually got to see one of them in person in Philadelphia. Sai Mukamala, steady performances from him. Sai always tends to perform better when he plays on turf with a big outfield, because he plays kind of some proper shots there. He doesn't get held up by the slow grass. Munib Chaudhry just probably edges out Apurva Maheshram. Munib had a couple of really big innings throughout the season. Hopefully we have more to see from Munib. Abraham Bolasetti from the Morrisville Raptors. He made it for his bat. He's known more for his bowling, but he was absolutely critical in a couple of the innings this season that kept probably about 3 innings this season that kept the Raptors in the playoff race, and they actually made the playoffs. And he was absolutely a key piece of those victories. They wouldn't have won without his cameos there. Ali Sheikh, we know all about Ali Sheikh. Great left arm all rounder. He's been good for quite some time. He's always been on the kind of the radar for USA. Somebody to watch. He's always been somebody to watch. Sanjay Krishnamurthy, his bat didn't really do much this year. He didn't do a lot, but not what we're used to from him. And he's actually a return member of this team. But his bowling is always good. He seems to always perform with the ball. And he did have a couple of good innings. Matthew Tromp, he's in the team. He didn't take a whole ton of wickets this year, but all of the wickets he took seemed to be super important wickets. And he had a couple of great batting innings as well. We got a great future from Matthew Tromp. I think he looks like a strong kid. He looks like a good prospect for the future. Sammy Sahel, probably the best performing member of this entire group right here. He blew the doors off of everybody for the Chicago Tigers with his death bowling, with his bowling in general. He was fantastic, and then showed flashes of talent with the bat too. So if you talk to Calvin Savage, he speaks very highly of Sammy Sahel's bat. He's already shown that he can bat. So we got a great future there. Aditya Padala, the second member of the Morrisville Raptors in this team. Adi, we've talked so many times about how underrated and under the radar Aditya Padala is, but he just manages to find some way to make an impact on the game, whether that be with the ball or the bat or in the field. He's one of the top fielders in the country. If you ask me, we get to see him an awful lot. So he more than deserves to be on this list. Atindra Subramanian, he is a return player on this list, along with Sanjay Krishnamurthy and Sai Mukamala. Atindra Subramanian is the other return member to this U21 list. He's just very consistent. He takes wickets at important times. He takes them early in the game. And then we have Heath Richards, who showed some flashes of brilliance this year with the ball and with the bat. He scores at a great T20 rate. Didn't really have like a fantastic batting season, but he struck it, he struck it 150 plus. So he gets in there. That's the 12 players. And now let's talk a little bit about some players who might have been left out of this. It's tough to pick once again, 26 teams, you're picking 12 guys. It's a little easier to pick the U21 players than it is the others because there's fewer of them. But let's talk about some guys that might have been left out of this list.
Yeah, and I think, as we get into that, I think what really brought it down for us was it was more about the impact ratings versus the just points that you get based off of, oh, how many runs you scored, how many wickets you took, how many catches you had. I think we kind of just based off how did you impact the game. And I think this is where, that's how you see your 11. I think a lot of people might be turning heads at, the Abhiram Bolasetti selection where the score sheet doesn't raise your eyes, but you talk about the moments in which he scored, they were huge numbers. I think Aditya Bilal, same thing. He took a lot of wickets for the Raptors, but it doesn't stand out as, this was like a crazy year, but it was just
Right.
the important wickets. He took Raheem Cornwall twice. I mean,
Yeah.
no one was dismissing Raheem Cornwall. He took him two separate times for the Morsel Raptors. So,
Right. In big
that's, I
games.
think, in
In
big
big
games.
games.
And,
Yeah.
and that's the key. I think it was big moments in big games. But with that being said, I think you mentioned Apurva Maheshwar earlier. He
Yeah.
was someone who just missed out on the list again. He was a real bright spot for the New England Eagles, who just did not have a good year. I think he
True.
was the
He
one
was
guy that
fantastic. He was
he
great.
was fantastic. He's the one guy that they could, at least say this is our positive point from the season. Rahul
Right.
Jariwala was good behind the stumps with the bat. Was just I don't think given enough opportunities with
That's
the bat.
probably true. Yeah.
And I think had he opened for the majority of the year, I think we would have seen him on this list.
At the
But
same at the same time, you can't really blame Silicon Valley for
yeah,
not opening him when they had so many great top order batters throughout that team. They had guys who were sitting on the bench for more than half the year who, when they got their chances, performed abundantly. So, that's a tough spot for him. But I think you're right. I think the reason Rahul was left out this season was because he just didn't get the chances that he did get. He didn't really. He did fine, but he didn't do enough to make it in this. This is a tough batting to crack right here. We got, a lot of all rounders and stuff, but the first four are all batters. And yeah, that's a tough one to crack. Like you said, Apurva didn't even make it, and he put up better numbers than Rahul Jarawala did. So yeah, it's tricky, man. It's definitely a really tricky list here.
yeah.
And I think
It,
just to add to what you said about we're looking at this from we're not just looking at it from the overall stats, but I think if you even did just look at it from that point of view, that you can't really change this team that much.
yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, I think so obviously anytime you're picking 12 guys out of a whole bunch of guys, it's somebody's going to get left out. One player I'd like to mention, Dev Tadani, who had a
Yeah.
great season, phenomenal season. The difference between him and a player like Atindra Subramanian, and it's no fault of his own, you can't help when your captain bowls you, is that Atindra's wickets happen to come at more crucial points of the game, whereas a lot of Dev Tadani's came when there were already 4 or 5 wickets down or something like that. Not to discredit Dev at all, but that's how the model works for the more advanced stats that we were looking at. So, and then also Parth Patel, another example of a guy who didn't get a lot of action, but when he did, my goodness, he was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, he was fantastic too. And to bring up another guy who, maybe you're thinking if he just had a different partner, maybe not a different partner, but just got a little bit more of the strike from time to time. Rishi Pandey, I thought he was really
Sure.
special when he played for the Atlanta Fire, whether he was opening, whether he came one down or
Yeah.
came in at the end. He was really good for them. And I really liked what he brings to the team. And again, he scored an abundance of runs. Talk about scoring 167 runs, maybe a touch slow, but he played the role that he was
Yeah.
put in there to play. It wasn't a role
Exactly.
where you need to score a lot of runs. It's take a single, get off strike, and let Raheem Cornwall hit big.
Right.
And so, I think it's a really exciting future for both those Atlanta youngsters and Rishi Pandey and Atin Subramaniam, two of the youngest
Sure.
in all of minor league cricket, and they have another under 19 cycle and a couple more under 19 cycles to come. So I think that's really exciting times for not only minor league cricket, the Atlanta Fire, but also that USA under 19 team that's so coveted.
Right. And another guy I'd like to mention that shows an awful lot of promise, Surya Thoramella, who bowled in 6 innings, and his bowling average was 7.29 and his economy was 4.64, and he took 7 wickets. That's just fantastic production in just a few opportunities that he got. He already, I mean, made me think twice about this list. A couple of guys like that left out. There's a lot of great players in this category, in the U21 U19 category, that just didn't quite make it, and I'm sure we'll see a lot more from a lot of these players in the future. And also, I mean, if you're picking a team to pick a team, if you're picking a team to play a game, you're going to pick it a little bit differently than you're going to pick a tournament 11 or a tournament 12 in this case. And you might want a leg spinner in that group. And if you do, Matthew Comrie's your guy. Yeah, Matthew Comrie had an excellent season down in Florida. He was the main leg spinner for his team and bowled an awful lot. Had a nice stretch there where he seemed to be taking a wicket every single game. So there's arguments you can make to change the shape of this team, to change the composition of this team, that I would accept those arguments. But you're picking a tournament 12 basically, and there was a lot of input from a lot of people into this team. It's not like me and you just went and picked this team. There was a lot of input. We put our input in basically, and then the team was picked. So just want to say congratulations to all these guys. Any last words, Aaman?
No, it was a great team, and I mean, again, we talk about depth of all these teams, and the youth team is no exception. Again, you talk about Matthew Comrie missed the list, Surya Thoramella missed the list. I mean, these guys who are just like right on the edge of being someone that you could think of, and it's going to be a fluid list. You're going to have guys who come in who have never been a part of a minor league team next season. Some of these guys might age out,
Right.
but I think it's going to be really exciting times. And again, there's a lot of these guys who are so young, and they're only going to get better. And I'm super excited. But yeah, I think congrats to everyone who made the youth team and everybody, any youth player who was able to play this season. I think it's a big step in the right direction.
No, yeah, it's a huge step in the right direction for this. I think the whole league in general took a big step in the right direction. Somebody was asking, "Oh, why didn't we have any dominant U21 players this year?" Well, I mean, and why don't we have USA members in the U21 team? Well, a lot of them were good enough that they couldn't be around to get those chances. It's they were actually with the USA team.
USA team, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like Yasser Muhammad. He wasn't around all season. He was with the USA team for parts of the year. So that's fantastic. I think anybody will tell you that they'll take that. They'll take, missing out on this team because they're with USA. Watzel Veghela, one of the people in the conversation for MVP last year. Away with the USA team. He almost made this team in just a few games he played. So yeah, looking forward to next season. We'll see how things go. Then it's interesting. We had 3 return players from the U21 last year in this year's team, and between the other 2 teams, we had 1 return player. So that's really something else. It speaks to the depth of the league. It speaks to how hard it is to get into one of these tournament teams. It's just a good league. It's tough to get in. It's a big league, first of all. We'll talk more about Major League Cricket, which is coming up next year. I can't wait to get in these discussions with you about, we'll have all kinds of fantasy discussions about who would you take in this situation. I'm going to start asking players when I interview them. I'm going to start asking them the hard questions, like, who do you want to be on your team? things like
It's
that.
just we're starting rivalries before the teams are ever selected. That's
Right.
where we're going.
I was told that I should start asking them who they don't want on their team. So,
I think that's a great question. I think the easy way out is who you want on your team. So they'll name the whole list of players, but who do you not want on your team? It's short answers, and I think they could be the most fun answers.
Well, nobody from these 3 teams is going to be named on the who do you not want on your team list. That's for sure. Thanks for joining me, Aaman. Hope you're having great fun in UNC, of course. I know that you probably are. And we'll do a lot more stuff this offseason, I'm sure.
Appreciate it, Nate. Should be great.